a bit of a test run, making sure that now the track is nailed and some of the scenery is being put in place, that everything will still run as expected. I've added a removable box here for a tunnel. I've started to trim up some foam for scenery, and just running the train backwards and forwards around the reverse loop module. I have actually wired up the points, or at least some of them. Case of 2 steps forward and 1 step backwards. More of that later. Right now, not doing the pen and stud arrangement. I'm just using these switches. There we go. Just change the points there so it comes along the branch line. Better stop the train before it collides with the coach. So 2 steps forward, 1 step backwards. I've got different types of points on the layout. If we come around here, here's a good example. Back to back, right hand points. These are Bachman, and these are Pico. And from one of my earlier videos, I am using Gauge Master's point motor. Here's a case of big hole underneath, way bigger than I need, but gives me flexibility with lining up exactly where the point motor needs to be. And what I'm finding is, if I put it under a Bachman point, I don't have any problems, but I put that same motor under a Pico point, and there's just not enough power in the point motor to throw the switch from one side to the other here. It's just too tight. Now I managed to mess up 2 sets of points because I figured, oh well, if you look underneath this point, there's a little spring, and the effort is from overcoming the resistance of the spring to get the points in to change direction. So I figured if I eliminated that, I'd be all set. I did a little test. Took the spring out from under the points. The spring is just about here. So I cut it with a pair of scissors. I put the point right on the point motor. It threw it in both directions. I then came to find out, once I mounted it underneath, that the point motor would throw the points, but there's actually resistance built into the end of the point such that it would throw it and then it would spring back again. So basically I knackered 2 sets of points for no reason. But anyway, here's the final mock-up of this end of the town. And as I said, I'll now next mock up the bridge area here. I have been experimenting with pieces of brickwork, to see how it's going to look. So I'll probably stick this up just again as a rough guide. And obviously I'm going to leave the ballasting of the track to be like the very last thing I'll do. So the mock-ups worked out. I know that I'm actually going to be, this is the viewing angle, and I'm showing mostly the backs of the houses, and there will be a back scene up to about this high, so I'd have to shoot over the top of the back scene to get the front of the house, with a train running just in the background, which I'm fine with. So I think I've still got a mix of taking advantage of all of the detail that's in these houses. So we'll have a road down from the church, right in front of this house. It'll run up the side here. There'll be some kind of bushes, trees along the side here. It initially planned on covering this whole reverse loop up and putting a tunnel mouth as part of this, and I'm now kind of rethinking of just leaving it as is and heavily foliating. No, that would be taking the leaves off. Adding foliage, bushes and trees around the rear of this castle and this set of oldie-worldy shops, so that the trains will be running behind, but they won't really be that visible, or they'll be visible. I might deliberately create visual breaks so you do just see a glimpse of it. So that's what my thinking is now with that, which means that these points are actually going to, this point, set a point here, and the other side are going to be visible where they weren't before. And that's it. That's the progress so far. I have also laid the main line in front here. I've done the calculations. The curving should end up right here. Hesitant to lay the last piece of track until I get the curving sorted out. I did bring in the 1 foot module that will bridge this section here to the section that's in the other room in there, and that's where I've drawn the curve out of, using 11-inch radius for both curves, so they're not exactly parallel. There is a bit of divergence. The spacing between the two tracks here is, I don't remember, I think it's about 1 inch, and you get out to the middle here and it's like about 1.25 inches. But anyway, so I will get that sorted soon. Temporarily made, just recycling. This was the control panel that I had on my 00 layout. Just happens that this arrangement of switches is going to be pretty close to what I'm looking at for my track plan of the industrial area here. So for now, I'm going to wire up the point motors to these old style switches. Still plan on doing the pen and stud. I'm holding off on the light bulbs now for indicating which direction the points have been set in. It all depends on where I go with these point motors. I've ordered the Pico under track extra long pin point motors, so instead that'll let me, instead of being flush mounted here, they'll be a little lower, and then Pico does sell a twin micro switch attachment that goes underneath, and that actually you hook up to the lights. So I'm thinking I can still have the light indicators, but not sure. So temporarily I'm using just a terminal block for attaching. This terminal block will actually end up being fixed at the end of this module. So if I need to disconnect the two modules, I just need to take the wiring off of this that's going to this control panel. But I do intend to have control panel here, a control panel on the other module, and be walking between the two to set the points, as opposed to trying to computer control the entire layout. I'll do this gradually. As I said, start off with these switches, upgrade those to pen and stud, add the lights, and then finally end up connecting the whole thing up through DCC to a PC. And then I'll have the flexibility of using these switches, using the pen and stud, or using the computer. I should be able to use all three methods. So that's where we're at. So I'm going to go back to test running. I need to test run the main line, and hopefully we'll soon get to the point where I get a train at the top here crossing over a train coming into or out of the station. That was part of the whole goal of doing the upper level. I did have to move this tunnel entrance way further forward. I was hoping to have actually got it back here, but that puts the tunnel entrance on a curve, and there's just not enough clearance between the side of this portal and the track. When it's curved, the coaches will actually catch either side, so a compromise has been made. I've moved it further forward. That'll actually let me back here. I had blocked off this part with cardboard, which restricts me being able to fix derailments in there. The cardboard ends just to the right here, I can remove that now, and obviously as you can see, I can get my hand right in here into the tracks if need be, and that's only because, you know, this is hollow underneath. If I'd gone with the with this approach for scenery for this area, I would have been snookered and that track would have been inaccessible. So it was a deliberate move on my part to use like the wire and cloth approach for there.